Hey, listen, you've been focused on Aleppo? No. We need to get focused on Aleppo.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Welcome in. It's great to have you aboard on this Monday evening if you're seeing it for the first time on December 19th, but I'm guessing this conversation will be repeated a couple of times over the next few weeks and months during holiday periods and the like, although the update on Aleppo and what's happening in Syria will be something that I'm sure will remain fluid, hopefully improved, but right now, not very much. We're going to bypass the normal conversations that we have on the issues of the day tonight to bring you my guests and the conversation about Syria. We have a couple of folks from Brown working in the humanitarian category, if you will, who are just going to have a discussion with us about the humanness of what's happening over there. We are without the Libertarian candidate who, when was asked, what about Aleppo, didn't know where it was, and thus more or less ended his fledgling bid for the presidency, right? Let me show you a headline to begin this conversation from last night's 60 Minutes on CBS. Actually, there you go. Syria's white helmets, hope in a hopeless place. If you didn't see this, you got to go on the 60 Minutes website and watch this piece. Here's an excerpt.
This little boy was alone and nearly invisible when the white helmets happened to spot just his hair in the pulverized concrete of his home. Bare hands were in a race with suffocation. This is that same boy, his face freed. They excavated the ruin hour by hour. The White Helmets say they have saved 70,000, and with each, they shout their gratitude to God. Majid Khalaf and Radi Saad quit college to join the White Helmets. There was a woman and her husband, he told us. Only 4 of her fingers were sticking out of the rubble. We could see her moving her fingers like this. Fingers, or here, the leg of a boy, are clues in a chaos of concrete. The leg led to hips and a torso. Body parts are expected. But then they uncovered a face. More often than anyone could expect, life is resurrected from a shallow grave.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Again, if you want to see more of this, and do you want to see more of that? I mean, I was watching, it was one of those things where you couldn't turn off last night. Speaking of seeing, don't laugh at me. You know, I wear glasses on a regular basis. These are replacement glasses, and then the lens fell out. Here, these guys are thinking, what is this guy doing? I mean, his... Any good opticians in Turkey or Syria? I'm going to need one. Dr. Khaled Almilaji is here. He is from Syria, via Turkey last 5 years, working in a humanitarian effort, and now is at Brown University at the Humanitarian Innovation Initiative. And Dr. Adam Levine runs that program. Guys, welcome. Appreciate having you here. When you see that, you think what?
Actually, it's the daily scenario in most of the afflicted areas in Syria, unfortunately. The daily, it's a fact since 4 years, and those like the White Helmets, it's just a group of young people. They really need to, they saw their families under the rubbles every day, so they organized themselves and they got some like support to do the amazing job that you are seeing now.
Yeah, I mean they're in the spirit of what you're trying to do. I mean, you guys run the conversation. I am so perplexed at the world response to Aleppo that I can't even process it.
Well, I think this raises a really important point, which is that as difficult and as complicated as the Syria crisis is and how much people want to raise their hands and say, it's all a dark mess, there's nothing that can be done, the fact is that there are hundreds and thousands of local Syrians who are risking their lives to help their neighbors and their communities every day there. There is an ongoing humanitarian response that is supported by the international community that's working to fight disease, that's working to help people who've been affected by trauma, that's working to shelter the displaced. And what we need to do is everything in our power to help support that response. And we have a unique opportunity to do so. One of the things that we're working together on at our Humanitarian Innovation Initiative, which we just launched at Brown University, is figuring out how to give those local aid workers on the ground the resources, the tools, and the training that they need to really be able to improve the lives of those suffering.
So how connected is this humanitarian effort at Brown to the actual international response?
So we're connected in a variety of ways. We work with a number of different humanitarian organizations that are providing response around the world. So the Syrian crisis is obviously one of the largest in the world right now, but it should also be remembered that there are dozens of other crises going on that people don't think about or don't hear about, from Africa to Asia to Latin America. I just got back myself from Haiti last month, where I was providing relief after Hurricane Matthew, and there's a large cholera epidemic there. So there's crises going on around the world. One of the things we do is we bring about 40 early career professionals, humanitarian professionals from Africa, Asia, and Latin America to Brown every single summer to help work with them and train them in how to provide better response in their settings, and also how to come up with new and better ways of providing that response.
So who's paying for that at Brown?
So there's a number of different funding organizations that provide support. So for the program where we bring people to Brown every summer, that's funded through a generous donation from the Santander Foundation. We work with a number of humanitarian organizations which get funding from US government, European governments, other governments. But then a lot of it comes from individual donations that people give to support humanitarian effort. There are a number of different organizations that we work with that are currently providing aid in Syria right now. Places like International Medical Corps, International Rescue Committee, Doctors Without Borders, AmeriCares, all of them have organizations that they're working with on the ground right now in Syria to provide aid.
What are you learning at this place?
Actually, I joined the Master of Public Health in Brown School of Public Health. They are supporting some Syrian scholars to complete our degrees, and this is great opportunities. In Syria now, there is a dire needs for to know how to, if we are talking about health issues, to know how to prevent diseases and health issues, problems, because now we have a problem of human resources. We don't have doctors, we don't have nurses. So it's better to know and to improve our ability to prevent diseases and to do some kind of a prevention. And in the next few years, I hope the sooner that the peace in our country, that we have to focus on rebuild our human resources and our infrastructure, but at the first stage we don't have any human resources, so we have to focus on prevention, and this is what I'm learning.
Do you have any faith at all that this thing is going to end?
We always hope for the better, and we always have to support those people there. They either don't want to leave the country, as 5 million refugees outside Syria now, and 7 million displaced persons inside Syria. But most of them, they want to be inside Syria. They don't want to go abroad. So we have to keep supporting them for us as humanitarians. But at the end of this conflict, we don't know what's the dimensions of the
Right. All right. When we come back, we'll update you on the latest sort of in Aleppo. In fact, as we were getting ready for the broadcast today, there was a reported assassination in Turkey of the Russian foreign minister to Turkey, and the assailant reportedly is yelling about Aleppo, and so you probably know more about that since we record the program earlier in the day, and obviously we'll be updating our thoughts on that in the next ensuing shows and on the radio as well. We'll be right back. Stay with us. So here's the latest on Aleppo.
More than 100 wounded evacuees from Aleppo have been brought across the border here to Turkey over the last 5 days for treatment, according to Turkish officials, including nearly 50 children. We've seen video overnight and this morning of emotional reunions in Syria, people evacuated from the dire conditions of rebel-held Aleppo, where they've been trapped, and meeting up with family members and friends. But the threat of violence is always there. Yesterday, one group of rebel fighters set fire to buses sent to evacuate civilians from 2 pro-government villages. The UN estimated on Thursday that there were some 40,000 civilians and up to 5,000 rebel fighters holed up in the last remaining pocket of rebel territory in the city of Aleppo. The Syrian regime now effectively has Aleppo under its control. It's a key victory for the regime and its allies, Russia and Iran. But it's been paid for with the lives of Syrian people who've been indiscriminately bombed by their own government.
It is just unconscionable. Let's get to we'll do some more discussion on the great project work that you have done on a humanitarian level there. But if someone asked you, and they must all the time ask you, what are the A, B's, and C's of what's going on there? You say what?
Actually, it's too complicated. It started in
Right.
2011
Yeah.
in the demands of people for democracy, and then in year after year, it's with the abandon of the international community to help those people and to support those people.
You're a native Syrian.
Yes, I'm from
Grew up in Aleppo.
Yep.
So, you know, pre-2011, life under Assad was like what?
Actually, as long as someone who's working for his own life, not interfering with political life, it's okay. Otherwise,
And Aleppo was a pretty hip city. It was pretty happening.
Yeah,
The university.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
the first economic city in Syria and in the region.
Right.
Yeah.
But democracy was calling all over.
No, it's a one-party country.
No, my point is that there's an urgency that people are, you know, with the advent of social media, the entire Middle East is awakening to new ideas for government.
The Arab Spring.
Right, the Arab Spring, and so you've got a kind of a formidable rebel effort there, which of course is multi-component. There's multi-components to it, but for the most part, you have a rebel reaction to the dictatorship of Assad, and bada bing, boom. America draws a line in the sand and then doesn't hold on to it, right, with the President Obama. The Russians have all sorts of interests and support Assad, and now we've got this mess that has occurred over the last few years, which is a whole lot more complicated than both you and I are explaining. Is there anything in the Aleppo area is there any normalcy at all in the city, period?
No.
Because every time we look, it looks like half the city's gone, and then half the city's gone, and I mean, how much more of the city's left at this point? Not much.
Actually, most of the city is affected. It's like almost 2.5 million before the war, and the half of the city were under the control of the regime, and the other with the rebels. But the two sides are like, but mostly the rebels areas are affected by the
Is there
bombs
any
and the
normalcy in Syria anywhere? Like if a tourist wanted to pop into Syria, not that they're selling packages right now, right, other than humanitarian packages, but is there any place where, you know, you can go get a lunch and feel comfortable?
Yeah, some like 2 or 3 cities under the government or the regime control. That's it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you grow up in Aleppo, and then you decide to do what? To go to Turkey. What happens?
Actually, I was involved in treating like protesters in the April 2011 in Syria with the protests, and I was arrested like for 6 months in there, like from September 2011 till
In jail.
Yeah, and security intelligence.
How was that?
Forces. It was horrible. Because I was kidnapped for 6 months. My family didn't know where I am. They told them that they don't know where I am. And
well, I don't want to dig at a place you don't want to go to. But I'm guessing it was not fun.
Yeah, it was not fun.
Well, how did it end?
Yeah, they just released that because there was more serious maybe people, they want to get them inside the prison. So we were like just doctors, and it was like not military action was in the field. Now there is more military action, and they need more spaces in the prison. Maybe they kicked us out. We were just like protesters.
This is something
doctors.
humanitarian efforts are challenged by all the time.
Absolutely. So the political situation in Syria is complex, as it is in many of these types of emergencies. But one thing that we should all be able to agree upon as a world is that people who are providing humanitarian aid, doctors and nurses like Khaled, who are treating people who are injured, should be protected. They should not be targeted by any of the forces that are party to the conflict. And that's something that we've seen a really gross violation of during the war in Syria. In fact, since 2011, more than 1,000 healthcare workers, doctors and nurses working to save other people have been killed, and more than 350 facilities have been targeted. And this is a violation of the Geneva Conventions that have been signed by essentially every country on earth.
I mean, this is the kind of behavior you expect from what would be identified terrorist organizations. But the Assad regime doesn't seem to play by any of the Geneva rules. I mean, obviously, with the bombing that has been going on, I mean, you take a look at the 60 Minutes thing, and you see the kind of I guess, strategic, but feels like indiscriminate bombing that's happening in the city, where all hell's breaking loose, and humanitarian aid is ongoing. I mean, America at least spends a lot of time trying to figure out who's there, you know, before we decide to send a drone in or blow something up, you know. There's a projection, at least, that's being done. I don't sense that there's a lot of projection being done from the Assad regime. Yes, no?
It's too complicated, and we have to, actually, as humanitarians, we focused on civilians and their needs, because.
But don't you have to strategize when you go in to make sure that you're going to at least be there for 3 months, if you know, or 3 hours, based on what the safety factor can be?
Well, actually, because it's so insecure there, it's actually made it very difficult for humanitarian organizations to send in external personnel at all. And in fact, most humanitarian organizations are now working very closely with local Syrian individuals who are providing aid, helping support local organizations and local doctors and nurses and others to be able to provide health care in that setting, because it's simply too dangerous for external groups to go in. And that's a big part, though. Every single day, as the situation worsens, as things get worse, there are people who are going to work to help save other people's lives, and they need our help.
Your family still there?
No, I had to brought them out of Aleppo because my house is under the regime control of the city.
Your immediate and
yeah,
an extended family, all out?
No, just my direct family. The other is still under the.
What are they telling you? Do you talk to them? Are you able to communicate with them?
No, I can't. Like, for security reasons, for them, for their sake, I can't.
And they live in the Aleppo area?
Yeah.
Are they bystanders? Are they part of the rebel effort? Are you able to say? I mean,
most of them like under the other side, under the government control, and they are like avoiding any contact with anyone outside. Like,
just keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Oh man, you've got a specific project I want to talk to you about when we come back. Stay with us. I mean, just some scenes from Syria right now. Doc, you're working on a specific innovation over there. Tell me about it.
Actually, since 2013, the health system was collapsed, and then the whole like information and reporting, and then the human resources number of services delivered is like it's gone. So the number of NGOs and humanitarian NGOs, they are trying to deliver services there. They were like a minimum coordination, and we first established some kind of a system called the EWARN, the Early Warning Alert and Response Network, to report for communicable diseases, because this is the first thing that we cure in absence of a good sanitation and absence of good water. So, and we established this system in like June 2013, and we caught the first polio actually case in Deir Zor in eastern Syria in October 2013, and we directly communicate with the UN agencies and donors, and they supported us actually in to do the first round of polio vaccination campaign in the north of Syria for 1.4 million kids under 5 years. Actually, we succeeded in doing this for 7 times in rounds in 2014, because like people, they were like cooperating, the rebels, all the groups on the ground, they felt the seriousness of the disease. So there is something that you can do as a humanitarian worker in a very catastrophic situation under the barrel bombs in the cities. In Aleppo, the vaccinators were like jumping from building to building, vaccinating kids because they felt the importance of this. So when the humanitarian workers need environment of cooperation from the locals and from everybody, and it's there. So we kept like supporting people as long as we see that they are they need and they are welcoming and they are cooperating.
You said at the beginning that you're pursuing a degree at Brown.
Yes, Master of Public Health.
I just think it's a whole different level of education. I mean, you're running the institute at Brown here, this Humanitarian Institute. I'm guessing you're learning as much from him
Absolutely.
as he's getting in terms of degree. I mean, who's kidding who here? I mean, not that your degrees aren't important, right? I mean, right?
No, that's absolutely true. And that's one of the models that we work on with the Humanitarian Innovation Initiative. It's not just about us training individuals from the developing world in how to provide humanitarian response. It's about us learning from them and their experiences about how to make humanitarian aid better. And there's so many small innovations, big innovations, new technologies, new systems, ways of doing things that we can do to improve the delivery of humanitarian aid.
I mean, this is the ultimate education cooperative when it comes to input. I mean, obviously you're learning some things from this institute to bring back.
A lot.
But your hands-on experience is then being taken. So, wow, what a place and process that you guys are operating under. I'm completely amazed by the kind of work that you're doing. I have to ask you though, just in terms of the politics of America's politics when it comes to Syria, Trump thinks he can build some safe zones in there with his finger raised and the wind blowing, and Barack Obama is kind of bailed out and is really answerless in this whole thing. Now that you were over the pond over here taking a look at it, you've got a minute to explain to me what we should be thinking about this.
Actually, we are in favor of supporting any solution that can mitigate the suffer of people. That civilians, like you know now that there's 50,000 people trapped in Aleppo, like in a couple of neighborhoods. Right. And they were their baggages and they're in the streets for
because they're on the wrong team.
Yes,
right.
and actually unfortunately, just a small bomb over there will kill like from 200 to 300 people because they are gathered in the streets waiting to be evacuated. So this is example of what's going on there. And they will move from there to Idlib. And Idlib is the same situation. Health facilities are targeted. Everything is targeted. So what we really need to hear that there is a solution, at least to not to target civilians. If we can't solve the whole crisis, the whole war, at least we have to avoid civilians from this war.
People can help. On our website, we'll post some links, right? But your 20-second message to the people watching this show.
So it's true that humanitarian aid won't solve the crisis in Syria, but it will save lives while we're waiting for a solution to the crisis. And as of this morning, the UN estimates that only 52% of the funding that is needed for 2016 alone for Syria has been received. Okay. People can give and we can support.
All right. Go to the website, foxprovidence.com. Thank you for your work. Good luck.
Thank you.
Be right back. Go to the website, foxprovidence.com, and learn more about how you can help in Syria. See you on the radio tomorrow at 3 on WPRO and here tomorrow night. Good night.